This is something I see quite a bit, where women start intermittent fasting to lose weight quickly, but over time it can begin to work against their metabolism instead of supporting it. Intermittent fasting is often presented as a simple pattern of eating and not eating. And while that is technically true, what matters more is how your body responds to that pattern, especially in midlife when hormones, muscle, and stress systems are already shifting. What's happening underneath is largely driven by two key systems: insulin signaling and your stress response, and both of these behave very differently after 40. When you go long periods without eating, insulin levels do come down, which can help with fat burning. But at the same time, your body also has to maintain blood sugar, and this is where cortisol begins to rise. Cortisol helps release stored energy, but when it stays elevated, it can start to signal the body to hold on to fat, particularly around the abdomen. And this is where many women begin to notice something confusing, where they are eating less, fasting longer, but still gaining weight or feeling more fatigued. This is something I see quite a bit in practice, especially in women who are already dealing with some degree of insulin resistance, even if they don't realize it yet. When insulin signaling becomes less efficient, the body doesn't respond the way it should. So even though insulin may be elevated, the cells aren't using it properly. That creates a situation where energy isn't getting into the cells effectively, and the body compensates by increasing stress hormones to keep things stable. So instead of improving metabolism, aggressive fasting can sometimes reinforce the very pattern that's slowing it down. There's another layer here too: muscle. Muscle tissue plays a major role in how your body handles glucose and maintains metabolic flexibility. And when fasting is pushed too far without adequate support, the body can begin to break down muscle for energy. And over time, that can quietly reduce metabolic resilience. So instead of thinking about intermittent fasting as a tool for quick weight loss, it's more helpful to think of it as a signal, one that your body interprets based on its current state. If your system is already under stress, underfueled, or struggling with blood sugar regulation, longer fasting windows can amplify those signals rather than correct them. This is why the pattern matters. Many women come from a pattern of constant eating, where there are multiple meals and snacks throughout the day, and that does tend to keep insulin elevated consistently. So the first step is not jumping into long fasting windows, but simply creating space between meals. Moving from frequent snacking to 3 structured meals a day can begin to stabilize insulin signaling without placing additional stress on the system. From there, some women may naturally begin to extend their overnight fasting window, often by delaying breakfast slightly or finishing dinner earlier. And this tends to work better because it aligns with the body's natural rhythm, where insulin is already lower overnight, and the body is more prepared to shift into fat utilization. But even then, the goal is not to push as long as possible. The goal is to maintain stability. That means having enough nourishment in those meals, particularly protein and healthy fats, so that the body doesn't interpret the fasting window as a stress signal. Because once that happens, the body will prioritize survival over fat loss. And this is often where the frustration begins. Women are doing all the right things, eating less, fasting longer, exercising more, and yet they feel more tired, recover more slowly, and see less progress. And that experience is not a failure of discipline. It's a reflection of how the physiology is shifting. Over time, metabolism becomes less about restriction and more about signaling. It becomes about how well the body can switch between fuel sources, how stable blood sugar remains throughout the day, and how effectively recovery processes are supported. So, intermittent fasting can still be useful, but it needs to be applied in a way that matches where your body is right now. Shorter fasting windows, consistent meal timing, and supporting muscle and recovery often create a very different outcome than simply extending fasting hours. And that's usually where things begin to shift in a more sustainable direction. If you want to understand what your body is actually doing, you can visit defynaturalaging.com and take a closer look with hormone testing.